Hey everybody, welcome to another Starcraft 2 broadcast. My name is Inaris. Today we're here watching game number 2 in the best of 3 match series from the April Champions Trophy tournament, featuring Gaebyul of Incredible Miracle spawning as the Terran up in the top left, and I swear if I'm mispronouncing that, I am so sorry. Against his Zerg opponent, whose name I can pronounce, CheckPrime, who is in the bottom right. Now this game is going to be taking place on the map Tal'Darim Altar. We'll go over the map in just a minute, but just a quick recap for those of you who are not seeing. CheckPrime is currently down one game in this series. As we do move into game number 2, he tried to do a fast expand on the map Test Bug, and the Terran player going with an early 2 racks build just was able to keep putting pressure and more pressure on CheckPrime until finally the expansion caved, lost the mineral line, and that's going to be that. So right now CheckPrime is definitely looking to secure a victory to stay in this match, go on to game number 3. Terran up here, I'll tell you what, man, he's had some great micros so far. We've seen some fantastic play from him. This is actually the first time that I've had a chance to watch him actually play, so I am pretty excited to see what we're going to have coming from him as we do watch the game on Tal'Darim Altar, one of the larger maps currently in the Blizzard ladder rotation. Let's actually take a look at it since it is one of the newer maps. You can see main base area, pretty elongated up here. Alright, so cool stuff going down. There's the natural expansion. There's the choke point leading out to it. That's one of the defining features of this map to me is actually, I don't know why, but it just sticks out that right here, it's not actually a ramp. It's just a nice little sealed off area leading into the main base. So pretty cool there. The ramp itself that leads into the natural is pretty darn large, actually. And also there's a second entry point right here, even a larger ramp. It actually leads into what is the third base for each player. Now down here, we see CheckPrime has gone ahead with that early expansion. Now this is a strategy that we saw him employ in game number 1. And to, well, not so hot of an effect. Of course, the starting positions being what they were, pretty close to one another in that game, certainly did not help the fact that CheckPrime was going for that early strategy of expansion. But still, all in all, I'd say it's a little bit better of a position for him. Of course, since this is game number 2, CheckPrime was the one that picked it, so likely he's looking to continue on and try to push the strategy that we would have seen on Test Bug. Alright, spawning pool is complete, looking pretty good there as we have a tiny bit of lag. Hopefully that goes away in just a moment or two. Now looking up here, alright, here's the Terran player. We see he's got the barracks, he's got the factory, all cool stuff there, Marines tucked in, nice and tight, and the reactor going down on the barracks. But look at this, CheckPrime coming over here and seeing this information. Alright, so he's probably expecting some kind of Hellion play. Look at what just popped up in the building production tab, Roach Warren. Now roaches aren't something you see all the time in ZVT. A lot of time you'll see them stick to Zerglings, Banelings, Mutas, stuff like that. But for now, actually, it's a great choice. We're having these roaches, you know, right here at the natural. If you combine it with, say, an evolution chamber, a spine crawler, it really does create a great choke point that you can throw those roaches into. And of course, being armored units aren't going to take a whole ton of damage from those Hellions like, say, Zerglings would. Now, already we do have one Hellion in the field. You can see it's heading out towards the middle of the map right now. Now, it is going to be coming down here to scout. Now, he's probably not going to be trying to actually do any sort of super heavy harassment with it, simply because of the fact that it's one Hellion, and he's just going to want to kind of test the waters first. He knows that the Zerg player saw it with his drone, and so he knows that CheckPrime is going to be expecting it to be coming at some point in the near future. So this scout is just kind of serving as a testing the waters. Will I be able to actually make this strategy work, or what? The nice thing about the Hellions on this map is that they're, you know, obviously mobility is not really an issue with them being incredibly fast units. So even if they cannot be effective as a harassment unit in the mineral line, which you see right here, we've already got a few roaches. It can still run around and control the watchtowers, which is exactly what it's doing right now. It's already gained control of the southern one. Alright, so there we go. Actually, it looks like he's going to pop in. Might decide to do a little bit of harassment, although I don't know how well that'll actually work out. Yeah, he spotted those roaches, and he's kind of like, you know what, man, I'm not sure if I can really make this work. Maybe get in, pull off a couple shots, but without that blue flame upgrade, you know, that additional monetary investment, it's just not going to be nearly as easy to pull off. Now, CheckPrime has come up here with the Zergling. You see he scouted out the Terran player. He saw, okay, so there's a siege tank. Obviously, he's flopped around the factory. Doesn't have that reactor on it anymore. But looking over here, we see he's pretty much just got one of each type of add-on for the barracks. Alright, cool stuff there. Working on 2 gas. And speaking of 2 gas, let's actually take a quick second and look at the income while both players are kind of hanging out here for a little bit. You can see, mineral-wise, actually, it's pretty darn close. Zerg is spiking up there a little bit. Also, you see Zerg is running on, well, will be actually running on 4 geysers in just a moment, but for the second is running on just 2, 46 to 31, so definitely Zerg has the worker advantage. And looking at the APM right now, you can see 124 to 130, and as far as units lost right now, you can see it hasn't been a super exciting matchup. Now, CheckPrime coming over here with the Overlord, hoping to pop up, maybe see any hidden structures here in the top, maybe catch the Terran player dropping some kind of tech, anything like that. A lot of times what you'll see Zerg players do is make just like one Overseer and just zip it across the back of the mineral line where there's probably not a lot in the way of defenses, you know, Marines and whatnot. So depot wall actually going down there, and oh, looks like the stakes have been raised a tiny bit at this watchtower with the presence of a roach now. Hellions not going to have quite as easy of a time there, and what is up with this leg? Seriously, I don't know what's going on with that. But now the Hellions are going to be coming down here once again. Will they be able to actually get in here and do any serious damage? They are certainly going to try. A couple of Zerglings do go down. Looks like one of them going to be going to the mineral line. Oh, man, huge waves of Zerglings trying to get us around before they're actually getting into the drone line. And dead. Very nicely played by CheckPrime, who, you see one critical bit of information right here. Terran saw the spire being built right here, knows it's just about complete, so even though he was not able to really do a ton of damage with those Hellions, he still was able to get in there and scout out and get that information that he needed in order to continue to build up. And you see there's the response right here, the missile turrets going down. Alright, great stuff there, and I like the little depot wall. You know, this will be great. Not only does it serve the function of a traditional wall, which I'm sure most of us know that, but also keeps any of those roaches who may decide to try to sneak in the Terran base from getting in without having to invest too much in the way of, say, detection, missile turrets, anything right here. Just kind of keep these structures placed. I mean, you'd have them anyway, so why not? Makes sense to me. Zergling's on the move, man. Will they be able to get up here and do any serious damage? I don't think so. These Marines and Siege tanks pretty tightly packed. This, of course, the staggering tank. Hanging way back. Alright, good stuff. Almost had an event, but not looking like it's going to be the case here. It's looking like CheckPrime is going with a pretty traditional Zergling Baneling meta play, which, I mean, certainly works very well. Also doing a pretty good job of spreading that creep. And also taking his third base right there. So it looks like he's kind of evolving pretty naturally, as one would expect on this map. Now here comes CheckPrime with the mutas going to be heading into the natural, while we see another army of Lings heading over towards the watchtower, and here comes the Terran player between the two. CheckPrime realizes, okay, I've definitely got a problem on my hands here. I have to do something about this, and the Queen is not going to be able to make it for much longer. Oh man, Baneling alert! Look at this, folks. Baneling's chasing the Marines around and doing actually a pretty good job of keeping the siege tanks nice and isolated. Terran actually out of options here as far as this army goes. Zergling's going to mop it up. Mita's going to clean up the air, and that's going to be pretty much it for that attack, folks. So pretty exciting stuff there as we see Gaebyul maybe once again going for another attack. Although after that initial response from the Zerg, I would kind of question maybe going again. I don't know. Because, I mean, you look at the army size right now, you can see 116 to 93. It's obvious that Zerg, he's got the Lings, he's got the Blings, he's got the Mutas. He is going to be ready for anything that Terran's going to throw at a of the mid-tech level. You see No upgrades in the siege tanks. We do have one upgrade on the infantry, so that's going to help out a good bit. And like I said before in game number 1, we did see that this Terran player is very capable of handling his units pretty darn well. So we can expect to see some good migra here on the next battle, whenever that may be. Looking at the army just kind of increase here, and it looks like it went up a good bit once again. Let's actually take a look at the Zerg player, just kind of see how his base is laid out there. Alright, so obviously expansions are complete. Does have the 4th. Looking down here, we can see, alright, cool evolution chamber. Pretty much all the key structures are back here in the main. A lot of times you'll see Zerg players drop the lair at the natural expansion, but not on this particular map. So all in all, this is working out pretty well for CheckPrime. We can see that Gaebyul up here going ahead, going with his 3rd base. You can see he's dropping down the command center, anticipating getting that in just a moment here. Don't know why I had to stop and think for a second. Just had a quick brain fart. But looking over here, alright, we got an Overlord or 2. It's just sending them out across the map. Maybe a nice little drop here. But will the Zerg see it? Oh man, that Overlord is pretty close. Oh, he spots it. He spots it. Yep, sure enough, there we go. He knows what's going on. Alright, so we'll actually just kind of keep an eye on him for one quick second. Maybe see if he's going to bring his forces back at all. Sure enough, there we go. Going to be headed down. Alright. Very nicely done, sir. We'll actually see what Gaebyul is going to be doing with these Marines here. I mean, I'm sure at this point he sees the creep. No, he doesn't actually. There we go. Uh-oh, 3 Marines getting pulled away. Very nicely played by CheckPrime, getting a couple Marines right off the bat. And here comes the rest of them, folks. Lost a couple of Zerglings, but all in all, worked out very well for him. Actually did a good job stopping any sort of potential harassment here in the mineral line, which we see right now doesn't have a lot in the way of defenses. Sometimes you'll see like one spine crawler, one spore crawler, maybe 2 spines and a spore, something like that. But obviously, not the case. Another potential drop here coming for Gaebyul, and once again, CheckPrime actually spotting it with his mutas. Very nicely done by CheckPrime there, who is definitely looking to secure a victory. Wants to stay in this tournament for as long as possible here. Grand prize, I think, is $250, but keep in mind, it is a monthly tournament, and we do this from multiple regions. So I don't know, maybe they're thinking about increasing the prize a little bit. But of course, one thing to keep in mind, though, also, Bigfoot is sponsoring this tournament as well as Kingston. So both of the grand finalists will receive the Killer 2100 network card as well. Pretty cool stuff there. Alright, do we have a drop possibly coming over here? Once again, he's dropping it way over here, which this time doesn't look like the Zerg will actually know too much about it. No, I don't think he actually is aware of that. Do like the placement of that sensor tower there. Pretty much give him a heads up on anything coming this way. Although Zerg can still kind of squeeze by on the very edge right here. Just barely, but you know, those missile turrets will definitely catch that. Again, nothing going on with his drop right here. This time dropped over at the this part of the map. Alright, well, that's great. I don't want to say anything, but you know, I'm a little curious as to why he's dropping one here and leaving it, and dropping one here and leaving it, not even sending it over to check and make sure nothing was, you know, at the expansion. And we see CheckPrime just sitting here. He's got this giant ball of units. We can see nice composition there. All right, we got plenty of infestors, and I think we heard a whole bunch of banelings morphing in right there. All right, good stuff. Ultralisk Cavern in a greater spiral. Look at that, man. CheckPrime is just going all the way up the tech tree, and this drop's still not doing anything. All right, there we go, finally going in. But it looks like he's going to be trying to time this to go at around the same time that he tries to engage the Zerg. There's the drop right there in the mineral line. Pretty quick response by Check, bringing over his drones, and the Marines are actually going to go ahead and engage the Spine Crawler, which has received a transfusion, and the Meta's ready to mop it up. Looking over here, we can see that actually Terran player is going to go ahead and continue pushing downward, but look at this. Zerg has the high ground moving in with the Zerglings, and we'll get a great surround up here in the top, and great fungal growths. Look at that. Even the siege tanks have all been mind-controlled, all but one of them, which is then steamrolled. Once again, another fungal growth there. Look at that great play. Even the Thor has been mind-controlled, folks. This is a huge point here in the game. Right now, we can see the Zerg has just waltzed right over the Terran player's army. And considering the fact that, well, you can look at the income right now, you can see Zerg does have a slight mineral advantage and a pretty hefty gas advantage. He is going to be in a great position to continue building up an army, which you see right now, 9 Ultralisks, folks. Look at that. We've even got the upgrades for the armor and the weapons coming for them. Right now, you can see Zerglings are 1-1. All right, great stuff there. Mito's 0-1. Here's Terran trying to control the watchtower, but you see he's moving out with a pretty small force when you compare it to what the Zerg has right now. 197 to 143. Obviously, a lot of that is from the Ultras, but still, considering how many mutas he's got running around on the field, I'm not sure I'd feel super comfortable with this running around by itself. We do have another drop possibly coming down here, and looking over here, CheckPrime. All right, yep, he spots it, man. He knows what's going on. He sees one dropship right there. You see it's actually being evacuated, realizing, you know what, man, I'm not going to be able to keep this thing alive for much longer. Might as well just drop it out, maybe kill a muta or two. One of them very close to death. Another one about halfway there, so. And it looks like the Overlord just started spewing creep a second too late before that command center was actually able to build. But here we go with a CheckPrime response, man. Look at this. So many Ultralisks, rather. I swear I've played Zerg before, are moving out across the map. Maybe to engage this would be a little bit difficult to run in with just Ultras, but certainly he has more than just that in his army, as he is moving down here in full force. Banelings, Zerglings, Infestors, everything, folks. Look at the size of this army. There is really nothing the Terran player can do about it right now. You see he's sitting down a couple units, and there's the GG right there, realizing, you know what, all I've got is a few SCVs, a couple siege tanks, and they are nowhere near this spot. Alright, so that's going to bring game number 2 to a close. We're now 1-1 in this best of 3 match series. Let's go ahead and head on to game number 3 and see who wins and moves on to the next round.